It's another fan cast, another day. It's 101 Dalmatians. How exciting, how great, how wonderful. Aren't you all excited? You should be excited. So, before we get down to it quickly today, the votes down below. You can vote for which one of these you want to see as the next fan cast. Do you want... Now, there was a problem this week. I should mention, Ben 10, Danny Phantom, both tied on the number of votes with 101 Dalmatians. Doing 101 Dalmatians because members voted for it. So that always sways it. And also, a lot of the votes were, they said Ben 10 or Danny Phantom. How was I going to pick Ben 10 or Danny Phantom if something else got the same number of votes, you know? Because all of your votes were for both. You can do that if you want. It's just not going to count as a full vote really for either of them. So I'm going to put them both on this week again for next week's poll. And if you guys actually prefer one of them, then vote for that one, you know? So, do you guys want to see a Ben 10 fan cast next Sunday? A Danny Phantom fan cast? A School of Rock fan cast? An Animal Farm fan cast? Or a Flight of Dragons fan cast? You guys let me know, and today we're doing 101 Dalmatians, so let's get right on with it. Pongo is a Dalmatian. And he believes that Roger is his pet, somewhat. It's very interesting dynamic, the way that they think in this film. You don't often get that with dogs in films, even when it's from their perspective. But they believe that the people are kind of their pets. So I'm kind of casting purposefully Pongo and Purdy older than I'm casting Roger and Anita. It doesn't, you know, they're dogs. It's just voice roles. But I like that dynamic that they had in the original animated film where they think like that. So I'd like to still have that. And I think it's easier to have that if dogs sound older. Not old, just older, you know? Late 30s, I think I'm casting them. So, for Pongo, I like the idea of Matt Smith. I like the idea of Matt Smith a lot because I feel like any of these guys that have done Doctor Who are very good at... They've all got very active voices, all these people that have done it recently. And Matt Smith's, he's got the mixture of being, like, quite posh. He's able to be quite posh. The crown. The crown. But he's also able to be eclectic and active and jumping around. And I always felt like Pongo and Purdy were very reserved. Obviously, when their puppies went missing and they were able to go chase after them, they were right on it. But they always... Their voices in the original 1961 it was film, they felt very laid back, and I think Matt Smith would be good at being posh and reserved, but then when the occasion calls for it, he'd like freak out, you know? All of his children are missing, like all 15, you know? Next, Purdy then. Same sort of thing. You want someone who's able to be posh and reserved. Roughly the same age as Matt Smith. And is also able to jump into action and is good as a lead. That's important, I feel, for both of these roles. You want them to be able to stand on their own as characters. Purdy, you know, they both went chasing after them, but they're not... Nobody in this feels like a main character. Nobody feels like a proper lead. And I feel like Pongo and Purdy should feel like that more so, even if they're not necessarily the central focus of the entire film. But I'm casting Haley Atwell as Purdy. I love Haley Atwell. Agent Carter, great show. I was sad that didn't go further. That could have been great. And obviously, God, you just always felt even more for Captain America having lost her because she's so great. And she doesn't do a huge amount of leading work, but she could. She absolutely could, I think. And she definitely has all of that. She's roughly the same age as Matt Smith, kind of late 30s now. She is definitely able to pull off the posh thing, while also generally being very good at jumping into these more action-y kind of roles. She doesn't do a lot of them, but she really does them well when she does. She's great at it. Next, then Roger and Anita, okay? Now, I do want to cast them younger. Not young, because they do, by the end of the film, talk about having a baby. So you don't want them to be getting together at like 20. But at like 30. You know, those two are, Pongo and Purdy are late 30s, these two are early 30s. That was just the idea I had behind it. I just liked the thought of them the dogs seeming more experienced, and that's why they're able to look with that viewpoint that Well, these are our pets. So, I wanted to cast Nicholas Hoult as Roger. Yeah. No, I'm not entirely sure if he can sing, so I don't know if he can do the whole Cruella de Vil thing, but he is he's this, you know, he's quite, like, thin, gangly. He seems like Roger. Roger was very much this tall, thin guy who is, you wouldn't quite describe him as nerdy, but he's kind of getting along to that point. He's got something of this introverted, I think, nature about him. I think they both do, because the dogs have to convince them to meet at the beginning. So they both got to seem quite shy in their own ways. And I think Nicholas Hoult would be great at that kind of role. He does a lot of that kind of role. Not quite, you know, slightly geeky without being really, really, really geeky necessarily. So I think that's what you're looking for. And he's this piano player. He's not that. I think he is quite introverted without necessarily coming off as really, really nerdy or anything. Next, Anita. Introverted again, early 30s. Also able to be quite posh, because Nicholas Hoult, again, all the people in this are quite posh in the original, and that's kind of what I've gone for. Make sure that everyone British and able to do that if that's what they're looking for. And I'm doing it again. I'm casting Lily James. I cast Lily James a lot. But this, you look at things recently for, like, The Dig. In that, she was playing quite a posh person, wife to this big shot, who was coming along trying to be an archaeologist in her own right. And she did seem fairly introverted, bit nerdy, all of this. And just thinking of her, like, wearing the glasses in that made me think of Anita at the start when she wears her glasses in the park. I think they're both wearing glasses at that stage. Neither of them really do later. It doesn't matter. I thought that'd be nice. And they are, I think Nicholas Hoult, Lily James, nice couple. I think that'd be a nice couple. Just like I think Matt Smith and Hayley Atwell. For some reason, I thought they had been in something before together. Matt Smith, Hayley Atwell. But I don't think they have. They seem like they have, or could be. Just like Nicholas Hoult and Lily James. I think those are good couples. Good couple of couples. Next, Nanny is also important because, you know, she's probably got almost as much screen time as Roger and Anita. Honestly, yeah, like they're just not important at all once you get like halfway into the film. They're barely in it. And again, despite being the nanny, she's got to come off probably as quite posh still. Still go quite posh, I think. And she's got to do this mixture of the quite comedic role. Nanny's the kind of bumbling, comedic, running about all the time kind of role. And I think she does just outright start fighting like Horace and Jasper when they break in at some stage, maybe. I'm going to cast Imelda Staunton. Yeah. She's just, there's a whole group of these older British actresses that you look at and they are distinctive. You know whether a role is for Judi Dench or Julie Walters or Maggie Smith, or usually you just know which one it's for. This one, I didn't quite know where to go with this role. I almost went for Julie Walters, but I like Imelda Staunton for more. There's an indefinable quality about Imelda Staunton that just, I feel like she'd be good at this unique brand of being more comedic as a character than almost anyone. Maybe not as much as Jasper and Horace. With also being sickly worried about them when they're lost and being quite the leader of this house. You know, she is in charge as much as she's also this comedic side character. I thought she'd be good at the mix of it. Next, now there's other animals, and you don't need to go casting every single one. You don't need to go casting any. I'm not going to try and cast any of the puppies. That's a disaster waiting to happen. I'm not going to try and cast all 15, but equally, how many do you cast? I'm not going to cast any of them. The other animals, though, the Colonel, the Captain, Sergeant Tibbs, I do want to cast them. Now, the Colonel is the sheepdog. He's in charge. Colonel's higher than Captain, right? I think so. And I do think you need to cast all of them again. Able to be fairly posh. That's generally what we're looking for here. But older. Older than anyone else I've cast, except for maybe Imelda Stun. So I'm casting Hugh Grant. Yeah. Next. And then the captain is the horse. And younger, but maybe not young. Back to Pongo Purdy kind of age is what I was thinking for the horse. So I'm going to cast Jude Law. These are not big roles, they're just fun to add in as well. Next. Sergeant Tibbs is the cat, and I feel like he... less so. He doesn't need to be as posh necessarily as a lot of the other roles. You could still have him be posh, but someone that could do varying types of voice for that role. So I'm casting Daniel Kaluuya, because I do think he can do a pretty good, more posh voice. Very, very interesting kind of voice he used in like Black Panther. But he can also do a less posh form of voice. He can do a lot of different styles. Next, now Horace and Jasper. It would be remiss of me to once again cast Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, so I'm not going to do it. As a comedic duo, it's hard to know quite what the dynamic will be, unless you're just casting a pair that have been in a lot of stuff together already. But I'm going to try something unique here. I'm going to cast Jason Statham as Jasper. Jasper is meant to be tall and thin. But Jason Statham, while not being tall, overly, is... I like the dynamic of this idea, okay? Because I'm casting Jason Statham as Jasper. And Chris O'Dowd as Horace. Chris O'Dowd is quite tall and thin. But I like the idea, and it is more about the personalities of them, for me, than the actual height and weight of them. And I just loved the idea of Chris O'Dowd playing these kind of characters that he normally does, these quite bumbling, you know, not sure of themselves fools a lot of the time. I really liked the idea of this dynamic where he is just really, really dumb, doesn't know what's happening. And Jason Statham is like grabbing him like that and pulling him down, is like in charge. But to some degree is also this bumbling fool, because they both are. And finally, Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil. Now, there's again a lot of ways to go with this. Emma Stone, for example, is what they're doing for the young version. I wouldn't have seen that before, but it'll be interesting to watch. Couldn't have guessed they were going to cast her for that. Now, for your, older, more traditional Cruella nowadays, they already had Glenn Close to. I think I want Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah, you do, don't you? You want Helena Bonham Carter. She is just great at crazy. Bellatrix Lestrange, that kind of thing. She's great at crazy. And Cruella's crazy. But she's also able to do very much these like posh voices. Now, I don't know quite how posh you want to go for her. But no matter what level of posh it is, she will still be able to drive that crazy up to 20 out of a possible 5 when she needs to. And she's just fantastic. She's just fantastic. Only someone that's been married to Tim Burton could truly, I feel, appreciate how insane Cruella needs to be. I think that about sums it up. And that's all for this one, folks. There's another fan cast coming sometime during midweek, but you can vote on the next Sunday one in the comments out of those 5 and let me know other ideas so they can get on the short list or whatnot. And subscribe if you please subscribe. I'll just sit here for a minute while you subscribe. It's a grip bug. Subscribe.